What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Final Whistle Sports Podcast. You know who we are. It's Blaine Spencer and Joe Ciccoletti here running the show on a Wednesday episode of the Final Whistle Sports Podcast because, I had worked a 15-hour workday yesterday, and Joe was so kind enough to step away from his work-life balance to hop on and do the pod. How are you, brother?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Oh, could be better. Monday night was a little rough. I know if people are following the show or saw us on our guest appearance last weekend on Goat Talk with Marcus, I made a stupid friendly wager. That's actually not a friendly wager. I just made a stupid bet last week. And, we have this prerogative that we don't bet against Tom Brady, so I rolled with the GOAT on Monday night, and now I'll be wearing a Dak Prescott jersey as a Washington Commanders fan next Friday on Goat Talk. Oh, and Marcus wants you on that episode, so you can rub it in with me. So
love to see it. I thought he was going to be wearing a Minnesota Vikings jersey for a second there, in that Giants game too, because I was trying to push for him to wear it.
He chickened out. He was like, if it was Justin Jefferson, he'd wear it, but no, I got to be wearing a Dak jersey. My dad might honestly disown me next weekend.
There ain't nothing wrong with that. You'll be all right. You'll bounce back better than ever.
I know. I might as well double down this weekend. Honestly, give me San Fran, a little double down action. Goat Talk with Marcus. You hear me? Dwayne Marcus, I'm doubling down.
Doubling down. We're here at Vegas, doubling down. Blaine Spencer, San Francisco. Let's hop right into it right here. First game, Seattle, the Niners. Kind of like the expected blowout we did see. Seattle did fight hard in that first half for sure. I think the game was pretty close going into halftime. I think 17-16, if I'm not mistaken. Metcalf looked great to start the game. He was blown off the top. Gino looked decent too, and then San Fran stepped up. And Brock Purdy looked a little shaky. He finally showed a little bit of that rookie side of him in that first half. And I'm like, okay, is this when we're going to see the collapse of Brock Purdy? Nope. Second half turns it around, has an incredible game, over 300 yards, couple touchdowns. Really went through his progressions really well. I definitely thought in the second half, hitting a lot of the checkdowns. But yeah, San Fran looked good. Good victory for them. Kind of what we expected. What'd you think?
Oh, without question. Like you said, nailed it right on the head. Exactly how we kind of anticipated the game going. Seattle playing with house money. Gino and DK looked good, had that connection. Tre'Davious Ward was getting fried out there in that first half. But all you can say is that the Niners have been a second half team, especially these last 8-9 weeks with Purdy at the helm. The defense flips a switch, and that was all she wrote in that second half. Purdy looked crisp. I think that halftime speech from Shanahan really probably settled him down a little bit. Like you said, he was a little shaky. I think now you got to, like we kind of talked about last week, you got to really consider him now as the starting quarterback going into next year. I think he was honestly the performance of the weekend from what I could see from the first playoff start quarterbacks that took the helm.
Yeah, no, I mean, he looked good once again, that's for sure. But also kudos to CMC. He did it on the ground today, on Saturday. 119 on the ground rushing, only 2 catches, which is surprising. Usually you're good for him for a couple there for sure. But Debo also had a big game, huge reception. I remember over 100 yards there. Ayuk over 70. And surprisingly enough, George Kittle really didn't do much in terms of stat, but he's out there blocking, getting CMC over that 100-yard mark there. So kudos to them. And we'll see what they do this upcoming week on Saturday, right? Versus the Cowboys.
I think they play Sunday because Cowboys had to play that Monday night.
Oh, Sunday. Yes, correct. Sunday.
Dallas doesn't play on a short week.
That's right. So
we might as well jump into that game. Cowboys absolutely dominant on Monday night. They will be taking on the San Francisco 49ers, 31-14. It was over by halftime. I mean, Tampa Bay, they had that one drive where they got into the 5-yard line. And when Tom Brady threw the interception in the back of the end zone, it felt like the rails had just fallen off because the team lost all of its confidence. The defense really struggled. And, I mean, we mentioned it, right? We've been saying that the Dallas was the better team on paper, and it wasn't really close, right? But the whole factor was that you have Tom Brady in the postseason. You think that was going to be the difference, and an outlying factor with Dallas having huge pressure on them not winning a road playoff game since the Jimmy Johnson era. But you got to give kudos. Dak was absolutely lights out. He was phenomenal. I think he only had like 6 incompletions, something like that, if I remember correctly. I got to look at the exact stats. So 4 touchdowns.
8 incompletions.
8 incompletions. Thank you.
Yep.
Still had, was it 4 touchdowns, I believe, or 3? I mean, 4 touchdowns. Yeah. I mean, Brett Maher, the kicker. I mean, I'm surprised he wasn't cut this week, but
I'm surprised he wasn't cut at halftime.
Right. But an absolute clinic. And like the biggest thing is that for me, this was actually a question I was having with my buddies, and I would throw this to you, because Dalton Schultz had such a big game, and I was arguing to them that, like, I would say Dalton Schultz is not a top 5 tight end. They were kind of pushing back on that. Would you put him in as a top 5 tight end? Because, like, honestly, in that game, we could have had 95 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's how wide open he was on like half of those plays.
Top 5. That's a good question, because when Dak was out, he wasn't doing anything.
Right.
Granted, he was coming back off an injury at that time. So I don't think he's out of the top 5, to tell you the truth. I mean, you got to think Kelsey's above him. Mark Andrews is above him.
Yep.
George Kittle's above him. I think Kyle Pitts is better, even though stats wise aren't there. That might be a little biased, but I think Kyle Pitts is better.
Yep.
Then you get kind of down to trying to think of guys off my, like TJ Hawkinson. Do you think TJ Hawkinson's better than Schultz? I don't know.
I do.
Work both ways. Okay. I think Darren Waller, when healthy, is better than Schultz.
Yep.
And then that puts me at my 5 right there. I don't need to name anymore, but I might be able to. But those would be my 5.
Goddard, you put Goddard ahead of him?
Goddard potentially. I think Schultz and Goddard are pretty equal for me. I would say.
Dawson Knox?
And he would have been my other one. I was going to say Dawson Knox is my other one. I'm like, Dawson Knox is very dependent on the touchdowns, where Schultz gets a lot of the checkdowns, that Jason Witten role kind of thing. So, yeah, maybe I put him right around that 6 to 7 mark. He wouldn't be too far off top 5 and could propel himself up next year to be a top 5. But right now, around that 6 to 7 mark, I would say.
All right, that's fair. I think I had him. I didn't have him in the top 5 either. I think I had him around 8 or 9 after I was like doing the argument.
That's
but
fair.
Like, again, that's all perspective, right? With what you're looking for in a tight end. And like you could honestly go 1A, 1B, 1C with after those top 5 guys, right? So like, it's a 6A, 6B, 6C. So you can make the argument with Goddard after the top 5, I feel like.
Yeah.
But as for on the Buccaneers side, Joe, what is Tom playing? I feel like he's got – I mean, I've been on the hype train that he's done, but after getting absolutely embarrassed like that, you almost feel like you can't end on that sour of a note, right?
But I don't know. I feel like he should have walked away after the Super Bowl win a few years back.
Correct.
I really think that was the time to just walk away. You're at your highest peak kind of thing. But he wanted to come back. He wanted to play, see how he could do. I think he got smacked in the face, and I think I just heard Aaron Rodgers kind of say it too. Like, the reason why we come back is because we can feel like we can win a Super Bowl. Does he feel like he can win a Super Bowl right now? I don't know. I don't know if that's the answer. If that's I don't know if he can. I think this team needs a look at. They got truly smacked in the face. Let's be honest. They weren't able to run the ball at all. Leonard Fournette does not look the same at all. Granted, he was fighting through an injury right now, and I hope he bounces back, but he doesn't look the same at all. You're relying on Julio Jones, who's 30 plus years old, is injured consistently as well. The O-line was really, really banged up. I actually thought with Jensen back, he would have been a lot better, but Micah Parsons just a beast. I don't know what else to say.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Like the first drive, I remember he gets pressure on Brady, like first down. And then second down or third down, it was Smith gets a holding call on him, like a full-on arm bar around his head. I'm like, man, dude is a game wrecker. I'll tell you that. But all in all, like the Bucs could have came out and put it right to Dallas early, because if I'm not mistaken, Dallas went 3 and out twice, if not 3 times in the first 2 or 3 drives. Dallas and Tampa Bay did the same thing. If Tampa Bay doesn't go 3 and out, gets away with a field goal, gets a touchdown, whatever it may have been, we could be talking a different story. It could be flip-flop. It could be 31-14 the other way.
Right.
Just with momentum. But, I think that's where Tampa Bay kind of lost it right there, and Dallas goes down after they went 3 and out twice or 3 times, scored. And then that's when you said Tampa Bay goes down the other way, gets down to 5, and Brady throws this costly INT. And, you could just feel the balloon deflate in Raymond James stadiums. And you just were like, all right, that's it. Dallas goes down again, scores again, and it was over from there. You're right. At halftime, it was kind of just like, time to turn it off. Let's go watch LeBron score 40. And that's just what it was. But to answer your question, I think it's time. Maybe it might be time for Brady to hang it up. I really do.
Yeah, because I feel like there's only the teams that are even listed as his potential targets. I wouldn't put them as a Super Bowl contender. I would put them as a playoff contender, like the Raiders. I mean, with Devontae and stuff like that, but that defense is still absolutely atrocious, right? And then trying to think of going back to Tampa, they've just showed especially this year, that they need to almost blow it up because this team's just too old, too slow. They don't have the pieces anymore outside of Godwin and probably Mike Evans. And then when you're looking at it, do you really want Brady throwing 55, 60 times a game? Like he's going to be what, 46, 47? I think it's 46. But still, you can't be doing that. I think it's going to – go ahead.
I mean, even look at it like this. Look at all the playoff teams right now that that played last week. There's not a single team, maybe except the Giants, Ravens pending Lamar Jackson. If Lamar plays, then Brady wouldn't go there. And the Dolphins pending Tua. There's no other team that would take Brady currently. They would take their quarterback that they have right now. I think the only team that would maybe consider Brady over there currently is the Giants. After that, it's just pending statuses of their quarterbacks they have now. After that, that's it. So why?
Yeah, no, and it's a fair argument, right? Because and most of the people that think he's going to go somewhere, it's an AFC team. And look at the quarterbacks. And the AFC is so much more difficult than the NFC, right? The NFC right now, the Final Four is what? It's Dak, it's Brock Purdy, then you have Jalen Hurts and Danny Dimes. Like he'd have to stay in the NFC. Like if he wants to actually try to win, to actually have a legit shot of winning a Super Bowl. Because if he goes to the AFC, there's no way he makes out of the first round again, let alone even get in. So I think it's going to be a tough pill to swallow. So let's go to the game of the weekend. And you and I, honestly, we can own up to this. Like, we can't even tell you what actually happened in the game because, like, honestly, I turned it off and then turned it back on when it got down to 10. So, and that is the absolute collapse that happened in Jacksonville with the LA Chargers leading 27-rip. And you lose 31-30. Trevor Lawrence, 4 INTs in the first half, comes back and plays nearly perfect. I don't know what to say. That's all I can say. Like Brand's, like I knew everyone on the Chargers staff just has to go. Am I wrong here? Yeah, you got to blow it up. Like they got to go after that.
Yeah, a couple things I took away from this game. Trevor Lawrence with the 4 INTs to start, 4 TDs right after it. It was kind of something like Brett Favre would do, right? Like Brett Favre would go, I have a terrible first half, throw all these INTs. You think the team's down and out. And then all of a sudden, he just comes around and bang, shoots the team right out. It's exactly what Trevor Lawrence did. It was unbelievable to see. Incredible second half performance by him to turn it around. But to answer your question, yeah, right? Like Brandon Staley's going to have to go. Something needs to happen. I saw they fired their OC. which was, they needed to do that. But I think personally his loss is on the offensive side. Even though the defense did give up 31 points, yes, I do understand that. But if I told you that the defense had gotten 4 INTs, you'd be like, oh, yeah, Jags won by probably 17 points. No problem, right? No,
Oh, yeah, easily.
They lost. Just unbelievable performance. But we also said it here. And we said it on what was the next night? Thursday night when we were on. We said it's all going to come down to coaching. And what happened? Dougie P pulls through. Dougie P on 4th and 1 runs a play. That's a Jets.
What a play call.
Yeah, like a jet sweep kind of deal with Travis Etienne, gets to the outside. And I actually was watching a video with some guy breaking it down when they were in Los Angeles playing. Dougie P was trying to get Asante Samuel Jr. to be the tackler of the play. And he kind of did something very similar in that play as well, except the tight ends were in the backfield instead of on the line, which was very interesting and a great breakdown. I forget who it was, so I apologize for that. I should have given him more credit. But it was great play call. He ended up getting 15, 20 yards, put him back in the field goal position, and bang, here we are. We're talking Jags in the AFC Divisional round now.
Yeah, and, I just feel like I think a big thing was Jacksonville scored at the end of the first half, gave them something to, grasp, right, going into halftime to be like, all right, let's come out firing. We finally got something positive for Doug to, address in the locker room, right, especially on the offensive side of the ball. But then you're also like, how is Austin Eckler getting almost no touches in that second half? The clock is your friend when you're up 27-7 at half. Why are you throwing the ball so many times? And then when it comes down to it in that fourth quarter, as soon as it got down to 2 scores with it was 10, I think, with 6 and change left or something. Mm-hmm. It just felt like the Chargers were going to do nothing. It really did. You could almost sense it in that building that they were just nothing was going to happen.
Bigger collapse, the Falcons in the Super Bowl versus the Pats, or the Chargers versus the Jags this time around?
Oh, it's going to be your Falcons every time, bud. I'm just going to be completely honest. Honestly, when it comes to that situation with your team, all you guys had to do was run the ball twice, kick a field goal, and it's 31-3, not 28-3, and Matt Ryan gets sacked instead. So,
I was trying to make myself feel a little better. That's all. That's all I was trying to do. But let's get to the Bills and Dolphins, to another close game, which I wasn't expecting. Again, I think it was a game that we also thought probably was going to be a blowout. Josh Allen probably would have been sitting halfway through the third quarter. But it wasn't. Again, Josh Allen looked great at times, and Josh Allen looked bad at times. I said that earlier last week. That elbow still might be an issue. Is it the elbow? Is it him? I don't know what it is, but Dolphins played good, man. I got to give them credit.
You gotta give the Dolphins their stars, even though you never want teams hate it when you shine the light on them in a loss, right? But you have to kudos to them. You force what? You got a punt return, you got a couple INTs, you got a scoop and score. You did everything possible to keep your team in the game. And now when you look at it from a Josh Allen perspective, you gotta honestly look at Brian Daboll. This hasn't been an issue the last 2 years, with Brian Daboll at the helm of the offense. And now he's gone. He's coaching in New York, right? But it's just so sloppy out of him at times. They're playing hero ball every play.
Yeah,
they're not taking those small things. You got to take your check and you got to run the ball a little bit more. There's just none of that. It's let's go for a KO every single play. And it's backfired on them. Honestly, they win Miami had every chance to win that game at the end, right? And it felt like the writing was on the wall for that blowout that we were talking about, 17-zip. And then Miami just kept clawing, and the Bills kept giving Miami every opportunity to get back into the football game. And with Miami had a chance. It's all you can ask for, right? Is with your third string quarterback, like you've got a chance in the fourth quarter. You're taking that every time. There's
two things that I'd like to pull out from what you said there. Josh Allen in terms of the hero ball. Dude, there was countless times where it was 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. Those downs where you're just looking for a short pass, just get me a first down, or maybe Josh Allen might take off and run, put the ball in his hands. There was two things that I didn't see him do. He didn't run the ball much, which I'm not sure if that's because the second half of the season now he hasn't ran as much because they're trying to protect him, or I'm not really sure what's going on with that. But then second, I'm like, dude, you got to just start taking the check down. You got to take what the defense gives you at times. I understand you want to take the shot. You want to put the flashy play. You want to get the KO on the Miami Dolphins. I get it. But in reality is this. You need to get the check down. You needed to get a first down. You need to keep the defense off the field. You need to spend time on a drive, and he just wouldn't do that. And I'm like, Josh, stop with the ego. Just dump the ball off. Give it to Singletary. Throw a little 3-yarder to Knox. Hit Diggs on a slant and see if he can break one. Just do that. Not take a 40-yard shot to Gabe Davis halfway down the field. There was no reason for it. I was flabbergasted by that, and it was unbelievable to watch. But on the flip side, I do want to talk about this. There was a lot of drops by the Miami Dolphins receiving corps.
Oh, my goodness.
Tyreek Hill had a few I saw. Jalen Waddle, I don't know how many he ended up with, but it had to be close to 4. And they
Easily.
were like, and they weren't like drops of like 2-3 yards. They were drops of like, 30,
a
40 yards down
significant
the
play.
field.
Yeah.
That could have changed the game drastically. And, if you look at Skylar Thompson and you didn't watch the game and you look at his stats, right? 18 to 45, 220, a touchdown, 2 INTs. Like, wow, that's kind of sucks. Let's be honest. But on the flip side, Jalen Waddle catches a couple of them drops. Tyreek Hill doesn't drop a ball. He could be up over 300 yards. He could have another touchdown or 2 and might not have 2 picks and might be flip-flops. It might be 2 touchdowns and 1 INT. I really thought Skylar Thompson played really well. They could not get the run game going at all, but I kind of expected that. You kind of expected them to load the box. You kind of expected them to force Skylar Thompson's hand and McDaniels' hand to say, hey, you got to beat me in the air. And he kind of did. It's just his wide receivers couldn't catch the ball. It was unbelievable.
The amount of times they tried to catch the ball with their body was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, that is the cardinal sin of a wide receiver. You catch it with your hands, not with your body. And when it's cold like that, the ball's going to be slick. It's going to slide out almost 75% of the time, right? So you feel like was a huge thing. And then, come on, Mike McDaniel, bro. Like, that 4th down, like, what are you doing? Like, I get it. Like, you thought it was a first down. You should be thinking every possibility as a head coach. Like, I got to give Mike McDaniel, like, he had a great year in his first stint as a coach with what he had to go through with Tua and his quarterbacks and everything, right? But how are you not planning plays ahead of time that if you're short, we're doing this. If we're good, we're going there. Like, he looked so lost, and it led to the delay game, and it costed them, honestly, that football game in that little bit of a situation. And the biggest thing is that the refs do not give that measurement anymore when you ask for it. I think that was a big thing that the NFL wanted to speed up the game because everyone was asking for measurements constantly when it's close. But come on, you got to be ready for that.
Yeah. No, I agree. It was kind of a rookie coach mistake there on him. But like you said, kudos to him for what he had to deal with this season and the ups and downs. Literally the ups and downs. What do you have? 5 straight, 3 straight, 5 straight, 3 straight. It was like, oh my God. But yeah, kudos to them. They played really well versus the Bills, and now the Bills are gonna have a tough matchup to the next game, Ravens versus Bengals. With the Bengals pulling that one out. Yeah, kind of a weird game. Gonna tell you the truth. What'd you think?
Baltimore should be playing this weekend. That's all I got to say. Like, Baltimore did everything right to beat Cincinnati this past weekend on Sunday night. Everything. Huntley actually showed that he could actually throw the ball downfield, unheard of, which was like all freaking these last, especially this season with his shoulder issue and his tendonitis or whatever. But J.K. Dobbins was an absolute beast. Like, he was playing with authority. And then you have this situation, like, the goal line play is the game. Like, there's nothing to wrap around it, right? Like, that play was 14 points. And I love the play call of calling a sneak, but Tyler Huntley went completely against the play call, going over the top from the 1.5 instead of doing it was going to be a bush push type deal from behind going low. Like, that was just an instinct thing on Huntley's part. That was the one thing he did wrong all night, and it's the difference of the football game. And like we mentioned it, like, if Lamar plays, they might have honestly convincingly won that game. Like, that's how lights out the defense played against Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. Like, that's what I got to say. Like, that's what I saw. I mean, this was all more of a Ravens mistake more than Cincinnati won the game.
I agree. I mean, we were never doubting the Ravens defense. It was just that their offense was going to put them at such a disadvantage.
And they were anemic again.
Exactly. That it was going to set the Bengals offense up to be so well. And this offense is a top 3, top 4 unit in the league. For a defense to try to hold up against that, you just don't know. But kudos to them. Yeah, like you said, it was a 14-point swing. Huntley went for the hero jump where if he takes the QB sneak and he's short, they go for a field goal. You're up 3 in the fourth quarter. And there's a shot for them, still to win. There's still a shot. Should they have given the ball to Dobbins? Should they have given the ball to Gus Edwards? I mean, you could play all them scenarios in your head all you want. Do you put the blame on Huntley? Yeah, I guess that's the only blame it can be put on. You really can't put it on anybody else. You can't put it on Jim Harbaugh because Harbaugh pulled through. He knew his team was at a disadvantage to the Bengals, and you know that. And he had these guys prepared and ready to go for battle when they literally just played each other, a week before, and they got blown to smithereens. Kudos to him for being there, like you said, or like I've said countless times, I think head coaching is a big thing in the playoffs. Like I said with the Jaguars, Dougie P's a lot better than Brandon Staley. Jim Harbaugh's, is he better? Yeah, probably. But I think it was just a lack of talent. But again, it didn't really come down to the talent side of things because Huntley just makes that mistake. I think that's just what it is. But yeah, I couldn't agree more what you said. This is more on the Ravens kind of messing up than the Bengals actually beating them. Yeah,
and it almost creates like such a unique matchup going into this week with the game. It's going to be Cincy and Buffalo in Buffalo. The game that didn't take place because of it did take place, but because of the whole Damar Hamlin situation, it was never concluded. Like, honestly, I couldn't tell you who's going to win that game just because of how bad both teams looked this past weekend. I literally could not tell you who would win.
Well, you're gonna have to make a pick in a couple minutes, but
I know, and I will make a pick, but like it's just like that's how like concerning like that is. Like if you're Kansas City, you're like licking your chops. You're like, wow, the two teams that you would argue are the true contenders didn't look great. Like so, but let's transition to the last game, and it makes me happy because Kirk Cousins did he Kirk Cousined when it mattered most. And that is with the New York Football Giants with Danny Dimes playing the game of his life. Honestly, he earned his paycheck for this upcoming offseason just in that Minnesota game alone. Game kind of went the way we kind of saw it. We thought it was going to be tight because Minnesota can't stop anybody. Biggest thing was fascinated by me is that the Giants had only scored 27 points twice all year, and they put up 31 to win that game. Like, this was more about the Giants' offense more than probably the Minnesota defense. Well, actually, probably goes hand in hand. But they shut down Justin Jefferson after that first drive defensively. They made everyone else beat him. But if you're Kirk Cousins, like, come on, bro. Like, a 3-yard out pass, I get it. Like, a man's in your face, but you got to force the issue there to give your team a chance. But I got to give kudos to the Giants. They did everything right. Danny Dimes and Saquon Barkley carried the load without question. Brian Daboll, a master class of coaching.
What I took from this is Brian Daboll, like you said. Brian Daboll's a wizard. I mean, he's incredible.
Josh Allen 2.0. That's what it looked like.
Yeah. Let's go to the losing side first for me. I didn't think Kirk Cousins really played a bad game.
No.
Like, it wasn't prime time per Kirk Cousins where he just absolutely shits the bed. I don't think that was the case at all. I mean, stats wise, he looked really good. He was playing decent ball, but they also just didn't get the run game going at all. Dalvin Cook only had 60 yards on 15 carries. They were able to shut down Justin Jefferson completely, I was mind blown about that. Granted, they let TJ Hawkinson roll, but as the Giants, you got to sit there and think, okay, which playmaker do I want to take away? Is Justin Jefferson going to hurt me more? Is TJ Hawkinson going to hurt me more? Well, Justin Jefferson's the obvious answer. So they were able to double him. They were able to shadow him. They were able to shut him down, which was a great call by the Giants to do that and just let Hawkinson kind of eat. But you can stop him every once in a while. But yeah, on the flip side, though, Dan Jones looks incredible. Vanilla Vic. Vanilla Vic.
Don't get me started with that nickname, bro.
I mean, there was at one point, I think it was in the second quarter. I was like, let me see the stats, right? Because they don't show the stats constantly. So I'm like, let me see what the stats looks like. This man had 78 yards, or I think like 72 yards in the first half and rushing, couple like 100, 150 in the passing, couple tutties. Like, whoa, what's going on with this, Daniel? Take it easy there. But yeah, he played really, really well. Very efficient ball with very little wide receivers. I mean, Isaiah Hodgins was a practice squad wide receiver on the Buffalo Bills earlier this season. Darius Slayton was maybe a wide receiver 2, 3 on this team. I don't even know any of the other wide receivers after that.
Kenny Golladay doesn't ever play.
Richie James. I mean, guys that are kind of no-goes. Like, I don't even know who they are. But, yeah, he played well. And Barkley also had a very good game, 50 on the ground, 50 in the air, 2 tutties. Especially that last touchdown was a big one for him to kind of seal it off a little bit. But, yeah, kudos to the Giants. They were able to take advantage of this bad Vikings defense. And moving forward, I mean, they're going to have a tough task against the Eagles this week upcoming. But I want to put it on the flip side for you here with the Vikings. What do you do this offseason?
Oh, man. I'd be worried, man. I'd be worried about Justin Jefferson wanting a trade. I really would. Maybe not after this game, but if you have another year like what you did this year, next year. But honestly, the Aaron Rodgers situation now, how it's unfolding, we don't know how Green Bay is going to move forward. But I'm trusting Detroit and Green Bay ahead of Minnesota next year if Aaron Rodgers is there. You can make the argument that Minnesota might be the 3rd best team in their own division next year. Like, that is a fair assessment based off of how bad they've been defensively, not just this year, but the year before that. Like, we talked about it last week. Like, this defense has been anemic for a couple of years now. Like, the stats almost were identical, other than they found their offense actually outscored their opponent this time, unlike last year in those tight games.
Yeah, I think
you felt like that's the issue going in. That's why I picked New York, right? I didn't trust Minnesota's defense enough when it came to that.
That's fair.
I feel like, but the whole Stephon Diggs thing that happened a couple of years ago, like, I would be afraid to potentially see that again. Like, especially if this happens again next season. You could see it on Justin Jefferson's face after that game that he was not a happy camper with his team.
I kind of looked up their contract situation as well, and they're 20-ish mil over the cap right now. So you're definitely going to see a lot of cuts this offseason from this team. They might have to look Kirk Cousins in the face and be like, well, is there a better quarterback out there that maybe can lead this team? But again, I don't think, no, I don't either. But the other thing is they were 11-1 this season, including playoffs, in one-score games. That's not going to happen again next year. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
They also, they were the first team in the NFC North, because they won their division. They're going to have a way harder schedule next year than they did this year. It's another thing to always look at for the future. You might be right. They could potentially be the third team out of the NFC North next year. But I think they also need to look themselves in the face and be like, is this team it? Can this team compete next year? Can this team compete 2 years? Can this team compete 5 years from now? I don't know. I don't think so, though.
I don't know. I mean, the only thing Minnesota has going for them defensively is their pass rush. Their linebacker play was subpar, even with having a stud like Kendricks in there. But their secondary, you got to blow it up. Like, I'm sorry. Like, you got to try something different on the back end. Like, you were getting burnt all year long. And then offensively, I feel like they won't change much, right? Like, you got doubt. Like, if you're looking at it from a outside perspective, you think this team has a ton of talent on the offensive side of the ball at the skill positions with Dalvin Cook, Alexander Mattison, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne, Hawkinson. You would think that's a plethora of weapons to have you compete. But the team is in so many close games that you just don't know what you're going to get, right? That's been them for the last couple of seasons now. Like, it's all about the tight one-possession games. I think you're right. I think they got to figure something out with the cap. You might see
there's going to be a lot of cap casualties, I think. Zadarius Smith is a big name. I know that he can probably get cut. But also don't be shocked if like Dalvin Cook gets cut, as well. I don't know if it'll happen, but don't be shocked, because if they like Madison, that's great. They might be able to go pick up another running back that could slide right into this place, but they need to get underneath the cap. And if he's the one where they're like, he's kind of aging a little bit, he's had some injuries over the years, why not get a fresh start? Maybe get a young guy in the draft or something like that. They might work.
You extend Hawkinson. He's up, right? That's the whole reason Detroit traded him. Or did they already extend him?
I'm not sure. But if they had the money, I guess why not, right?
No, the problem is they don't have the money.
Yeah, but he's a top. He's going to be he's a top, 8-ish tight end. I mean, he's not too far off from the top 5, I personally think, if he has another very good season. So, right. I mean, if you can get a guy like that, sure. But I mean, tight ends are kind of a dime a dozen. You just kind of never know when you're going to get that one. And at least Hawkinson, kind of what you're going to get out of him. So, yeah, I would try to resign him if you can do it. So,
yeah, I'm trying to think. Irv Smith probably is gone. Yeah, the other tight end. I'm trying to think. Yeah, Minnesota's in a mess. Yeah. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how they unfold. All right, let's preview. All right. Let's actually look at the team that we were just hyping up, and that's the New York Football Giants. They're going to Philadelphia. Tough task. Philadelphia absolutely blew them out in that last meeting, but the Giants also played nobody. So I think you gotta give them, the New York Football Giants, a puncher's chance after what we've seen this week and how Daniel Jones, it's got to be on an all-time high right now. The hardest thing is when you have obviously your best game of your career, it's hard to back that up with consecutive weeks. I'm going to roll with Philadelphia here. I just think there's on the bye, you give Hurts an extra week with the shoulder. You don't know what you're going to get though, but I think they're able to contain the one person that can hurt the Eagles, and that's Saquon Barkley. And I have the Giants being competitive for about a half, Eagles pulling away late. I've got this one being 30-20 Philadelphia.
I like it. So you got a little over 10 point. Yeah, the only way the Giants win this game is on Daniel Jones's legs. That's the only way they're going to be able to beat the Eagles if they have a chance. Personally, I don't think they have a chance. I think Daniel Jones and the ball took advantage of the Vikings defense last week, at probably a bottom 5 unit. But this week you come into a top 5 unit in terms of defense. They're leading the lead in sacks. Their secondary is starting to get healthy. You got Bradbury's back. CJ, Johnson Jr. What the heck is his name?
Gardner
Johnson. There you go. I was trying to get it. Gardner Johnson's coming back healthy as well. I don't know if Avonte Maddox is playing too. But this defense is going to be ready to go. And Hurts, like you said, gets another week. He is not even limited in practice this week. He's completely off the injury report, which is good news for them.
Yep.
I think the Eagles blow them out of the water.
Really? You think it's a rout?
I think it might be a rout. I mean, sports talk radio here in the Philadelphia area is like already like moving on the next week. It's pretty bad. I've been kind of joking with a couple Eagles fans, right? And I said, look, if you guys lose to the Giants, I said, you guys realize that you could potentially have an NFC championship as the Giants and Cowboys. How is that going to sit in your stomach? And they're like, dude, it's going to be terrible. I said, but you want to hear what might even be worse? I said, you guys beat the Giants, but then you play the Cowboys and you lose to the Cowboys. I said, how are you going to live with yourself? You won't. You can't. I said, dude, there might have to be police officers on the bridges because you got to watch for suicide jumpers. I don't know, man. Like, that's serious. I mean, it might be bad here. But to talk about this week's game, I think the Eagles blow them out. I think Hurts has an incredible game. I think Barkley gets bottled up. I think Daniel Jones maybe throws a pick or two, or maybe even a fumble comes out of him. I think this game's a blowout. I'll give them 14, the Giants. I think it's like a 31-14 kind of game. I think the Eagles kind of just rout them out the building.
I think it's fair. I think, right? Because this is more about how well are the Giants going to play, not based off of how the Eagles are going to play. I think we both think that the Eagles are going to get points. I think it's just going to be based off of the offense for New York if they can get rolling again like they did this past weekend. So that's a huge component.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next game is Kansas City, Jacksonville. And if you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan, I feel like you're playing with you're licking your chops. Like, even though like you've had Jacksonville already this year, you blew them out a little bit too, just absolutely dominant. And the offense didn't even really get firing on all cylinders in that matchup. I think Jacksonville, they've already won their Super Bowl. They got their playoff win. They won the South. I think this is going to be too much Mahomes. I think this one actually might be a rout. I think Kansas City is going to win 38-21.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I just think too much Mahomes, too much Kelsey. I think the defense is a little bit more is underrated this year for Kansas City. Statistically speaking, they've been a lot better than they have been in recent years. And I think Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he's undefeated on a Saturday. That's got to come to an end sooner rather than later. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to be that person that's going to be make Trevor Lawrence his first Saturday victim.
All right, that's fair. I think it's going to be a lot closer. I still think the Chiefs win. I think it's going to be a lot closer. Jacksonville's defense kind of surprised me this past week versus the Chargers. Even though they did give up 30 points, they held Herbert a lot of the time. They were able to stop the run, which is huge. They're able, and on the offensive side, they're able to kind of protect Lawrence a little bit. Like Bosa didn't get in there as much as I thought. Khalil Mack didn't get in there as much as I thought. They kind of surprised me in that game, and I think they can kind of withstand it. I think the Chiefs come out maybe a little slow to start the game, and people are going to get nervous. And we know what's going on. Jaguars might take an early lead, maybe a 7-0 lead, a 10-0 lead, something down that nature. And I think I ultimately in the end, I think Patrick Mahomes takes over in that second half. I think Andy Reid dials it up big time for them. And I think the Chiefs are going to win, but I actually think it's going to be a little bit of a high scoring game. I could see like a 31-27 kind of game, 31-24 kind of game. Yeah, I think it's a high scoring game. And like I said, I think it's kind of a slow start. Like I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a 17-13 or 17-10 or 14-10, like slow first half, and then boom, ramps it up in the second half. They kind of figure each other out. But yeah, I got the Chiefs in this one too, victorious.
That's interesting. I think the biggest thing for Jacksonville is how you can't get off to a slow start. You get off to a slow start against Kansas City, they will not let off the gas like how the Chargers did this past week. That won't happen. Mm-hmm. So I think that's going to be the biggest component for them. And like you said, the defense has been surprising these last couple of weeks. It showed up when they've needed to show up and show out. They're young, they're athletic, so that gives them an opportunity. But it's going to come down to the two quarterbacks, who's gonna perform when it matters most. So
keep an eye on Frank Clark. I think Frank Clark gets a big time sack.
Late.
Yeah, like late in the fourth quarter. That kind of just sets the Jaguars back. Something's gonna happen there. I got a feeling with Frank Clark.
I like that. That's a good pickup there. All right. Let's go to the other AFC matchup. The one that I honestly have no clue what I'm going to do. So I'm going to let Joe go first.
I'll rock with you.
That's the Bengals and the Bills. Give me an extra couple minutes to think and finally make a decision. Two teams that easily could have lost this past weekend, but I feel like this game could be a fascinating one as well between Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. What do you see happening up in the Mafia?
This is the problem here because I got stuck with this last week in the Giants game. The heart's telling me one thing, the mind's telling me the other, right? So I'm in that boat again. Love Josh Allen. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, if not, at times the best quarterback, but he's been making a lot of mistakes this year. And it's been something different that I haven't really seen over the last couple weeks now. But Joe Burrow and that team still rocking and rolling, still winning games. Did take a little bit of a hit on the offensive line this week. Williams getting I think a dislocated knee or something like that. Not good stuff. But you got Trey Hendrickson on the other side. He's going to be wreaking havoc on the Bills offensive line. I'm going with the head here. The head's really pulling me big time. I think the Bengals win this game, man. I really do.
Okay.
I think they kind of shock them. I think Josh Allen's still going to try to be playing that hero ball. He's going to get a couple on Eli Apple. He's going to get burnt. We know that. It's just what happens.
It's inevitable.
Yeah. But I got a feeling the Bengals pull this one out. I think it's like a 27-24 kind of game.
Ooh, okay.
Bengals pull this one out, and it's tough for me to say, even though I'm probably going to be rooting for the Bills. I'm going to be honest with you. But the mind's telling me Bengals win by 3.
Oh man, let's all right. Let me walk myself through this now as we're kind of like talking and thinking at the same time. All right, Cincinnati, no offensive line. Their top 3 dudes are hurt again, so who knows how many of them are actually going to be able to play this week. So Joe Burrow is going to get hit plenty of times. But that didn't phase them last year. What else is new? That didn't phase them last year. Still went to the Super Bowl. Got all the skill positions all over the board. You got Diggs, you got Davis, you got Beasley, you got Knox, you got Chase, you got T. Higgins, you got Tyler Boyd, and you got Joe Mixon. List goes on, right? The game's going to be a shootout. I really do. I think this game is going to be a one-possession game. It's going to come down to who has the ball last. I think it's going to be very reminiscent to Chiefs Bills last year. I think Josh Allen does just enough because I picked the Bills to win the Super Bowl earlier this year, and I got to hold to my guns because he's still there. riding with Josh Allen, 35-31. Game's going to be a spectacle. I really do. I think it's going to be fascinating because I think both teams, like, even though they got through it this week, McDermott and Taylor are going to coach both of their teams hard this week and be like, yo, y'all sucked. Like, you guys shouldn't even be here this week. So I think that's going to light a fire under both teams. And it's going to be a fireworks. I think it's going to be fireworks. I think
more of a fire's not going to be put on the performance of last week, but more of the performance that could have happened 2-3 weeks ago. I think I think more fire's going to be put underneath there is like, hey, we're going to do this for DeMar, especially on the Bill side. We're going to do this for DeMar. We're going to win this game. We're supposed to be playing this game. We could have won that game. Same thing with the Bengals a little bit on the other side. Like, hey, we weren't able to play because of an unfortunate situation, but hey, let's go out there and beat them. Like, that's what we were supposed to do that week. And I think both are going to use for motivation for that. I also could see like an overtime game here. I think this might be the first overtime game we see in the playoffs right here.
Yeah, I agree. I think, imagine if we see the new Super Bowl rule, the new rule.
Yeah.
Kind of to see how I hope it's not a dud though. Like the rule just turns into like the ball turns into a pick six or something if it goes to overtime. Like make the rule actually useful and someone goes down and scores and then so that the other guy can go down and score as well. Like that's what I want. But I feel like the rule almost going to backfire in and of itself this year.
Yeah.
Which kind of suck, but it is what it is.
Yep.
All right, last one. All right, I'm doubling down. Give me the Niners. I'm not even going to really talk about this one. I think San Francisco arguably is the best team in the postseason right now, and they're right now my favorite to win the Super Bowl. Like that's how good this team has looked, even with Brock Purdy at the helm. I think the Cowboys got that little bit of a weight off their shoulders, finally getting over a huge hurdle like that is winning on the road. But how much like this all week, this game has been talked about as, is Mike McCarthy going to blow it at the end again with clock management? Is that going to actually give the ball to the ref? There's just so much noise around this. And I think this game is going to be a lot more low scoring than people think because I think both defenses are extremely solid. That corner opposite of Diggs is going to get burnt at least once. Like that's a wrap. That's a layup, right? So I'm going to take the team that's got the better defense and who has been playing more lights out and consistent this year, and that's San Francisco. I like it to be another low scoring game, tight. I think it's going to be like a 24-20 type deal, and I'm going to roll with San Fran in the Bay.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, you guys know it. I've been a very, very, very big fan of the 49ers this year. Them riding them the entire way. Big Kyle Shanahan supporter as well. Couple key matchups, keep an eye out here for. Parsons versus Trent Williams. You're talking about probably the best tackle in the league versus arguably the best pass rusher right now in the game. How are they going to stand up between each other? I mean, it's not like Parsons is going up against Donovan Smith versus Tampa Bay. We're talking about the best tackle in the league right now. How will he be able to withstand? Brock Purdy should be able to get protected at least versus him, so not as much pressure, hopefully, right? And then, like you said, Dallas defense been playing pretty good, and but San Fran has the amount of weapons that they have is astronomical. I mean, you you first start out with the best running back in the league, CMC, a top 10, top 12 wide receiver in Deebo Samuel, another good wide receiver in Brandon Ayuk. And then you kind of forgot about a guy who didn't do anything last week is George Kittle as well. Could George Kittle be the X factor and have a huge game? I don't know. He could. But then on the flip side, Dallas is definitely going to have a chance to take advantage of the San Fran secondary a little bit. I do believe so. However, I think Dallas needs to get their running game going to set up their pass. They do well a lot off the bootlegs, the play actions kind of thing. And San Fran defense is pretty good. I'm not going to lie to you. Pollard last week, I think had 70 or 80 on the ground. Zeke got shut down last week. And if Pollard gets shut down like Zeke gets shut down, this offense could sputter real quick and it could be dangerous for them and they could get shut out very quickly. I don't think it's going to happen. But if I was the Cowboys, I would be like, I need to emphasize this run game. I need to have 4 yards of carry on these guys every single time. It needs to happen. Or Dak's going to need to get his legs moving a little bit and get moving. A repeat of last year's wild card round with, like you said, Dak screwing up, didn't get the ball to the ref and didn't snap the ball and pain in the ass, but whatever. I like San Fran. I'm going to still keep rolling with them. I don't think it's a 24-20 game. 49ers have been like doing pretty well on the offensive side of the ball. They've been over 30 points over I think 6 of the 7 weeks or something of that nature. So I'm going to continue with that. I think they scored 31 points this week. I think Cowboys are going to get theirs. I think it's like a 31-27 kind of game, 31-24 kind of game.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's the Niners to win. I think it's going to be a good game, but ultimately I actually think the Niners get up like 10, maybe 14 in the fourth quarter. Cowboys kind of score maybe
touchdown.
Like a late touchdown to kind of at least kind of make it seem a lot closer. But yeah, it'll be that's what I'm thinking is going to happen. Question before we wrap up: if you only could sit down Saturday or Sunday, which day are you sitting down to watch one of the other games?
Trying to think of, so Saturday is Eagles, Giants, and Chiefs, Jags.
Correct.
Sunday is Bills, Bengals, Niners, Cowboys. I gotta say Sunday.
You're sitting down.
I think I would have to say Sunday. I think all 4 games are going to be a lot more are going to be pretty competitive. I think we can make the argument that like Saturday's games, we both said that one may be a rout. Like I said, Jags, Chiefs might be a rout, and you said Giants, Eagles. I think Sunday's games are going to come down to the wire. I really do. Like, I think the Cowboys have a lot to prove with trying to get over that hump again, which is getting to a championship type of game. And I think the Niners are going to continue to prove why they're always right there year in and year out. And then when it comes to Buffalo, Cincinnati, we kind of mentioned it. Like, you got arguably you've got 2 of the best 5 quarterbacks in football going head to head, and that could be fireworks just in and of itself, because it was a game that pretty much didn't take place. So a lot of unknowns in that matchup too. So got to roll with Sunday. You?
I agree. Yeah, I would also sit down on Sunday. I mean, the matchups are going to be incredible on Sunday. I think they're going to be very solid games. The Eagles game, like I said, it could be a slight blowout, but also the fact I got to think of it like this, man. We're on the East Coast. I mean, these games get late, man. I get tired. I mean, 8:15.
You're a sleepy boy.
Yeah, I mean, you're a little different. You got a couple hours advantage. I mean, yeah, like this 8:15 game. I mean, halftime is going to be 10:30. I mean, the Eagles are up by like 14-17. I mean, like, Jesus, I might be asleep on the couch already, sleeping about next week. I mean, that's what I'm looking at here. But no, in all seriousness, I would sit down for the Sunday games. I think that 3:00 game is going to be incredible stuff to watch. And then I think the Niners game is going to be good too. Like I said, maybe fourth quarter kind of dwindles itself down, but I think it's still going to be a really, really good game.
Yeah,
all 4 games. Don't get me wrong. I think all 4 games are going to be good, at least for the first half. We'll say that.
Right. One thing that's gone for you, the Sunday games, they'll be over before bedtime. It's a 4:30 start. It's a 6:30 start for you.
Yeah, I was going to say right 4:30 for you, 6:30 for me.
4:30 for me.
Yeah. That'll be nice.
It'll be perfect for you.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be real nice to be able to take a shower, put the time card in for work, and we'll be good to go. Move on with life.
Fan-fucking-tastic. I love it. All right, brother. Same time next week?
Yeah, we doing when? Nah, it's a Tuesday. We got to come back.
I know. We got to come back to a Tuesday. I know.
We got to get back to
I might be recording from the office, though, on Tuesday.
That's going to be good stuff right there. Hopefully your boss doesn't walk in, but we'll be all right.
Hey, one thing I got going for me, hopefully my boss isn't listening to this, but like, yo, boss, like, I know you're out of the office by 4:00, so like, I'll be all right if we're recording around 6. So,
yep. Nah, next week's going to be a lot of fun. We'll definitely break down these divisional rounds, hopefully talking about some great games come the following week, I mean, we have the AFC Championship game, the NFC Championship game. It could be a surefire of it could be a Chiefs versus Bengals, Chiefs versus Bills. I mean, God, that'd be incredible matchups. We might even have a neutral site if it's Chiefs versus Bills playing in Atlanta. The only thing we haven't seen a playoff game like that in years. And then on the other side, I mean, you might have a NFC East divisional matchup once again. Could be wild stuff to see.
Man, I don't agree with that neutral site rule, man. Like, something happened. Like, go to Arrowhead, grow up. Like, honestly, I get it. Like, it's an unforeseen circumstance, but like, come on. Neutral site game.
I'm okay with it. I wish they picked it somewhere different, but yeah, I'm okay with it.
Honestly, I was waiting for them to say Detroit because Bill's already played in Detroit this year.
To tell you
Twice.
the truth, one of my buddies kind of recommended it, and I don't. It would have been more the center point if it was Bengals and Bills, not Chiefs. But the center point would have been the horseshoe of Ohio State. They played at Ohio State's campus.
That'd be tough.
It would have been wild.
But
to
you
see.
know they were gonna put it in a dome though. You knew that was gonna happen.
Yeah, I had a feeling, yeah, but it would have been an incredible atmosphere. I mean, the place holds like over 100,000 people. Like, I don't know if they would have got 100,000 people to go, but like it would have been unbelievable to see.
Oh, 110%. I don't know. It'll be interesting. Maybe we'll be in it. You don't have them going to Atlanta anyway because you got Cincy winning, so you got going to Arrowhead anyway.
Yep, we're gonna have a rematch, baby.
All right. I think that's gonna be something to see. You know, maybe we'll be able to work in some other sport talk next week because you know we won't not as much to break down go as football wise.
I agree. Yeah, maybe get some football. Get the football talk in. Maybe talk awards because awards are going to be coming up soon. That week or two from there. Golf's back full swing right now, coming around. They're getting through the Hawaii take right now. So we'll get into
Kim clutch last week.
Very $600,000 chip in, man. Good for him.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well. All right, everybody. You'll see us next week on the Final Whistle Sports Podcast. You know, it's going to be fascinating as always. Tune in. As always, if you haven't yet, leave us a review, subscribe, do what you got to do. Show us some love. Also, we're going to be, I haven't told Joe this, but we're going to be doing a little bit of a merch drop in the next couple weeks. So, plus, because I owe Joe some gear now, finally. So I got to get on top of that and send him some stuff. So, but watch out for a merch drop. Put in your reviews and what you guys are looking for potentially. So, as always, Joe Ciccoletti, Blaine Spencer from the Final Whistle Sports Podcast, signing off, everybody. We will see you next week back on a regular Tuesday episode of the Final Whistle Sports Podcast.